Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my video. Alright, so here's the situation. I am stuck at a public storage right now, and my truck is having issues. Basically, I drove to this place to get something, went and got something, spent maybe like 30 minutes picking it up, coming back to my car, trying to start it, nothing happens. But all the lights, everything else works. I am absolutely lost on this. Everything else works. And I've actually tried starting this truck at least 10 times already, and nothing is happening. So basically, I've been having issues with this truck for, I guess, the last 2 months as far as the starting situation is concerned. I mean, it hasn't been as bad. I mean, last time it took me maybe like 3 tries to start it, and it did start up. Previous to this, I've tried multiple times, but it happens sporadically. It doesn't happen all the time. It happens maybe like once a couple weeks. So I thought maybe, the battery might have been a bit drained or something like that. Maybe I left the lights on. I don't know. But anyway, I went out, turned on the headlights. I went out, checked the headlights. Was hoping that it was something like the battery, so I don't have to worry about it too much. I can always jump it. So I do have a battery jumper booster pack, or I'll just get a new battery. $100 fix, not a problem, nothing to worry about. Lights were bright. So I'm like, okay, lights were bright. All right, so I was like, okay, I can't be 100% sure it's not the battery. So I took the jumper cables, put on a battery with my booster pack, which is 100% full, by the way. I charged it up a couple weeks ago because of these kinds of situations. I was worried that it might get to the point where maybe my battery is 100% dead. I would need something to pop it. And I did try to start it a couple times, turn on the booster pack, try to start it, nothing at all, absolutely nothing. So I was like, maybe it's the terminals. So I went, checked out the terminals. The terminals were a little bit dirty, but me putting the booster pack onto the cables, onto the outside, the cables from the car, it should actually start the car. But I spent maybe a minute or two unbolting the cables, cleaned up a little bit because I do have some wire brushes, minor tools that I do have in the back. Popped it back on, put the booster pack cables on, try to start it, nothing happens. All right, so at that point, I know it's a little bit more of a serious situation. Everything else in the car works, and I did test out everything just to make sure, just to get a feel of what the issue is. The truck, everything in the truck does work. So, all right. So at that point, I knew it wasn't the battery. And at that point, I could also rule out the alternator because I thought possibly could have been the alternator, but with my experiences as far as alternator issues concerned, normally the alternator goes out, when the car is running, when the engine's running, regardless whether the car's moving or not. You could be idling and, it cuts out on you. That's when there's the alternator. But me putting cables on the battery and trying to turn it on, it should have at least cranked up or turned on. At that point, I would know that it's one of those two things. But me taking the cables off, it immediately, the car would have died, and I would know 100% for a fact that that was the alternator, that was the issue. But this wasn't the case because the car didn't crank over, didn't crank. There was no cranking, absolutely nothing like that. So, and the battery that I have is maybe like a year old. So that's why I didn't change up the battery like last month or two when I was starting having these issues. Like, could it be the battery? I only had the battery for like a year, so I didn't really worry too much about it. Maybe I was crossing my fingers that it was really nothing much. Okay, so figure out it wasn't the battery, figure it out it wasn't the alternator. What else could it be? Came back to my car, actually turned on everything I could possibly turn on, see if there was anything that I could tell that was causing the issue. But all right, so I'm down to 2 things that I could actually try to, diagnose as far as this issue. It could be the relay or the fuse. Now, here's the thing. There's a more obvious scenario to this, but all right, I'm just going to go down the list as far as what the issue is, trying to figure out what the issue is on with something like this. All right, so could it be the relay? Now, relays are really a lot more difficult to test out. Now, I don't have a fuse tester on me. Obviously, the relays, you're gonna have there's at least 3 or 4 different prongs, I guess. Okay, I wasn't going to do that. So, all right, for me to figure out whether it's a relay or not, whether the relay that goes to the starter is the issue, I'd have to do that test. But I'm not going to do it because I've been hearing a click from this truck. Like, every time I try to crank it, I hear a click. Nothing else, no cranks, but I do hear a click. I mean, it gets, it's a very faint click, but I do hear a click. So at that point, I know that there is some kind of electricity going towards the starter. Okay, I know there's electricity going to the starter at that point. So the relay works by relaying electricity from the battery to the starter. So I'm hearing the click from the solenoid. That's what I'm guessing. But the starter motor is not turning over. So it's not the relay. At this point, it's not the relay. I know it's not the relay. So what else could it be? I'm going to, my next option as far as diagnosing this are the fuses. I mean, there's something else. I did check out all the ground wires. All the ground wires looks fine. But let's go to the fuses. As far as the fuses is concerned, I've only had like 2 scenarios where the fuse would keep the car from starting, and both those scenarios were different, from what I'm experiencing in this truck. So the first scenario that I ran into in my experience of car issues, starting issues and stuff like that first instance I've had with fuse issue causing the car not to start was, I got no power from the car that I had when I had this fuse issue. Like, no power meaning that there's nothing on the dash, nothing was working, alarm wasn't working, security wasn't working, radio wasn't working, phone. It was like it's as if the car was dead, which is not this case with this truck, considering everything works. All right, in that case with my prior experience with the fuse issue, that was the main fuse that connected the battery to the fuse box, and that main fuse was the one that was blown. Swapping that out got the car to start. But this is not the case here, considering I am getting power in this truck to everything. I'm getting power to this truck to everything. As if everything works the way it's supposed to work, except that it's not popping on right now. So the other fuse issue I had was an issue where my car worked. Normally it would crank, it would just not turn over. It would crank, it would just not turn over. That was the other fuse issue that I've had as far as cars not starting. So basically, the fuse issue was a blown fuse to the, I believe it was a blown fuse to the fuel pump. All right, and this is not this case here. It's neither of these cases, considering I am getting lights on the dash, everything works, but the car is just not, it's not cranking at all. It's not this truck is not cranking at all. So, okay, it's not either of those fuse situations. It's not a ground wire. So, what I'm left with is this situation where I'm thinking it's the starter motor. And I'm thinking it's a starter motor because, all right, this normally it would be my first guess. It would be my first guess, but this is, and with this truck, it wasn't my first guess. It's considering that I changed the starter. I had a rebuilt starter put in about 8 months ago. 8 months ago, I haven't probably put any more than, I don't know, 10,000 miles on the car on this truck since then. And I was hoping that this wasn't the case. All right, I was hoping this wasn't the case. This previous situation I had with my starter on this truck was, I pretty much had the same kinds of symptoms, I guess, with everything working, hearing the solenoid click, but the car just didn't crank up. It didn't crank at all. And I was hoping this wasn't the case because I did buy a starter from AutoZone. It was a rebuilt starter for, I forget how much it was, but it was around 150 to 200 bucks from AutoZone rebuilt. They had sold a brand new one. They were selling a brand new one for 300. So I was like, I don't want to spend that much money on a starter. So I got the rebuilt one, had it put in. It was working fine. And unfortunately, I think at this point that this whole entire situation with my truck right now is the same scenario that I had 8 months ago, which blows my mind. Okay, so I'm thinking right now that it's a starter. I mean, my truck is not going anywhere because I called AAA up. And I'm waiting for them to tow my car. It's gonna take about an hour for them to get here, and I'm definitely going to, do some more tests as far as trying to figure out what's causing this car not to start. And I'm hoping that it's not the starter because I do not want to spend any more money, putting in a starter after 8 months. Now, the starter I got. Oh man, the starter that I got from AutoZone was a rebuilt starter, definitely a rebuilt starter, and I think there's a 1-year warranty on it or whatever. Unfortunately, even if I do get another starter replaced without any cost to me, I'm either gonna have to put it in myself, spend time doing it. I'm gonna have to pay somebody $125, $150, $175, whatever it is, for them to put it in again. So that's the problem right there. And in either case, I'm gonna spend more time than I normally would with this situation, which sucks so much. But I'm definitely going to keep you guys updated. I could do some tests right now, try to bump the starter on this car, or try to put the a wire to, I believe it's the terminal on the solenoid to see if it starts up. I'm not gonna do it right now. So I'm just not. I don't really have a long enough crowbar. I don't want to figure out where that starter is right now, and I just don't want to do that. But I'm going to keep you guys updated. Stay tuned, all right, guys? All right, guys. So it's now the next day, and guess what? My assumption was correct. Unfortunately, my assumption was correct. It was the starter that was the issue on this truck. I did a couple of tests on it when I got home. I took a long crowbar, tried to hit it to see if it started up. It didn't start up, and I did actually end up putting a wire to the terminal of one of the terminals on the solenoid. Try to start it up, nothing. It would not crank, nothing at all. So I ended up doing this job myself. Took the starter out, took it to AutoZone, had a couple of words with them about it. Here's the thing with rebuild starters. If you guys buy a rebuild starter, just let you guys know that when they rebuild these starters, all right, when you give them the core and they rebuild it, they only rebuild the part that's broken. Now, I don't know how they clean these starters up as clean as they, making them as, brand new. I'd like to see that process as far as making them look, 100% brand new. But here's the thing with those starters. They actually take the part that's broken. That's the part that they replace. All the other parts on that starter, unless they're broken too, they don't replace those parts. They reuse those parts. So it's rebuilt. They only rebuild the parts that are broken or the part that is broken. If there's a wire that was burnt out on it, that's the part that they replace. Everything else on that starter has whatever the mileage that your car had on it before you changed it. So that's kind of crazy. It kind of sucks, but that's the way it was, and it is. And I ended up putting it in the truck myself. It took me a couple hours, hour and a half, 2 hours. Did it. It works fine now. I mean, it turns on. It works fine. And unfortunately, I did go out and buy I didn't buy it, but I had them replace it. There's a warranty on it. They gave me another rebuild starter because for me to get a brand new one, I would have to shell out $300 for it, and that would be like $450, including what I paid originally for the starter job. I wasn't gonna do that, unfortunately. I mean, my best bet would have been to go on eBay and ordered it, but I really didn't have time for I don't have time for all that. I'm not gonna wait like a week for them to get a starter to me, because I actually need my car, so need my truck. Anyway, it's fixed. Pain in the butt. If you guys are in the same situation, man, I it really does suck. But hey, if you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe, and if you guys have any comments, please leave a comment in the comment section, guys. All right, take